Hey guys, it's July 2025, but I thought I would go ahead and go back to the very beginning of my food log, which goes back to June 5th, 2020, and read a week from there just to see how it's changed over the years. I mean, it's been 5 years. So let's see what I was doing back then, because it was probably bad. Okay. June 5th, 2020, Friday, 1 p.m. Quesadilla and ruby coffee with soy creamer, made at home. 4 p.m. Cheeseburger on a potato roll, made by Brian. 8 p.m. Leftover potatoes and lapchang in red curry, eaten cold. 10 p.m. One frozen pork dumpling from a larger serving, fried for Brian. So the first thing I'm noticing is that I didn't start eating until 1 p.m. and stopped eating at 10 p.m. I mean, the whole day is shifted by like 7 hours. You know, we were bartenders prior to the pandemic, so it did have an effect. I mean, and we were social people. We did hang out with people back then, I guess. And so my habits have changed a lot. Quesadilla, I just write quesadilla. I don't specify the cheese. I guess it didn't matter. I specify the type of coffee, ruby. Ruby coffee I used to buy all the time. It's just, they don't have sales and the price just kept going up. But it is a great coffee out of Wisconsin. My friend Tim Breen, who's a great designer, I work with him sometimes on projects. It's a friend of his who, they used to work in coffee, and he left Intelligentsia, I think, and started Ruby in Wisconsin. I would recommend it. 4 p.m. cheeseburger on a potato roll. That sounds great. One frozen pork dumpling. And it's just, I don't understand this is such a weird day. Or maybe that's why I was like, I need to write this down, because I'm eating weird things. I'm eating oddly. I'm not eating like I ate before. And actually, before the pandemic, I was working in an office. I was working at a record label, Numero Group. So I went out for lunch with my coworkers on a regular basis. I had a regular schedule. So this actually seems kind of crazy. I must have been working. But yet again, this might have been around the George Floyd protest, where they gave us time off to protest. And so my schedule was a little wonky for a Friday. Hard to tell. I also started working from home really for the first time around then, and didn't really know how to manage my time well. I think Brian was on unemployment, so he was just home at 4 p.m. making cheeseburgers, apparently. We didn't even live together at this point, so yeah, he wasn't doing anything. Let's see. And this was the era where you could buy lapchang at an affordable rate. At least, when you're living near Chinatown. That Chinese sausage that's kind of sweet and red. It comes in like a hot dog pack. It's so expensive now. I stopped buying it. But when I worked at Mission Chinese, we would make a salt cod fried rice that had lapchang in it, and I really developed a taste for it, and I would try and recreate that fried rice all the time at home. I still do, actually. It has lettuce in it, which is really great. It, retains a little bit of its crunch, but then it gets that oil. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. June 6, 2020, Saturday. 10 a.m., leftover coffee with soy creamer. 1 p.m., wedge of queso fresco. 6 p.m., potatoes and tomato curry made at home. 7 p.m., char siu bao made at home. 9 p.m., 1 can of Budweiser. Okay, some things are jumping out at me right away. It seems I like to specify numbers, which I don't really do anymore. I sort of estimate. 1 can of Budweiser, 1 frozen pork dumpling. And it's very matter of fact. I'm not giving as many details about the dish. It's more, I need to record something as data. It's much more simplified and robotic than compared to what I'm doing now, where it's more about the ingredients in the dish, I would say. What I had on hand. My cats are scuttling in the background, so sorry. Another thing I'll point out, wedge of queso fresco. So I was living in a Mexican neighborhood. I had access to all kinds of different things I don't really see a lot of now. So just snacking on Mexican cheese was a lot more common. Always had tortillas around. 6 p.m. potatoes and tomato curry. It's funny because before I even opened this document to see what I was doing back then, even before I even decided to do this today, I woke up and pulled ingredients to make potatoes and tomato curry. So not a lot has changed, I guess. So much and so little because I'm doing the same exact thing. And 7 p.m. char siu bao. I remember that being bad. I don't think I know how to steam things properly. I didn't have a proper steaming setup. The dough wasn't right. I think I don't know if this is my first time making char siu, but there were a few attempts in there to make char siu, especially when restaurants close and I wanted food. I mean, I know you could do delivery and takeout, but that was so expensive, even back then. And so I think we were like making cheeseburgers at home, trying to make more Asian food at home, making curry at home, even though we're surrounded by curry places, which is sort of a big change. I mean, I think it really did force me to cook more. And even though I had a previous life working in restaurants, I never cooked at home. Because I was living in New York or Chicago and had access to cheap, great food, especially in New York. I never needed to cook. I didn't own cookware the entire time I lived in New York. So yeah, this pandemic, I'm really stuck inside cooking a lot more, and it's forcing me to become a better cook, I guess. Okay. June 7th, 2020, Sunday. 10 a.m., Ruby coffee with soy creamer, made at home. 12 p.m., char siu banh mi on whole wheat baguette, made at home. 4 p.m., queso fresco and mustard on a whole wheat baguette, made at home. 6 p.m., 1 can of Budweiser, leftover potato curry. So June 2020, we're also in peak make bread at home territory. So I was making baguettes. I made those baguettes. They were not great, but I did make them. And it seems I was forcing myself to get through them. Char siu banh mi sounds great. Queso fresco and mustard on a whole wheat baguette doesn't. And Budweiser, I mean, that's kind of whoa, my cat just fell off the toilet. June 8th, 2020, it's a Monday, 9:30 a.m., Ruby coffee with soy creamer, made at home. 11 a.m., toasted whole wheat baguette with butter and avocado, made at home. 1 p.m., 4 frozen dumplings, fried at home. 6 p.m., 1 tall can of Pilsner Urquell. 8 p.m., chicken and succotash, made by Brian. Chicken and succotash is back. So, yeah, I've been making that one for a while now. And, of course, no details. So simple. Who knows what was in that dish? Again, with the numbers, 4 frozen pork dumplings. It's giving ED. Tall can of Pilsner Urquell. Pilsner Urquell is tough to find here in North Carolina, but when I do find it, I will purchase it because it was Brian's favorite Pilsner. By the way, I'm recording this in my bathroom, and my cats are thrilled that I am in here and are making noise. So sorry. Also eating avocado. I'll eat avocado time to time, but especially living in a Mexican neighborhood, you could go across the street and get perfectly ripe avocados at any store. It's just a complete joy. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. I'm also noticing this was my pre-ice cream era. I was lactose intolerant for a while, and ice cream would make me sick. I don't know what happened, but at some point I started eating it again, and I'm okay. I'm alive. June 9th, 2020. It's a Tuesday. 9 a.m. Leftover coffee with soy creamer. 11 a.m. Toasted whole wheat baguette and avocado made at home. 1 p.m. Corn salad made at home. 3 p.m. Handful of pretzels. 7 p.m. 1 can of Modelo, fried eggplant and peppers made at home. 8 p.m. 1 can of Modelo. 11 p.m. 3 frozen pierogies from Casey's trip to Pittsburgh, fried. Wow, a lot of action on this day. Also eggplant season, corn season. No surprise there. I would love to know what kind of pretzels I was eating. Modelo, again, living in a Mexican neighborhood, Modelo was plentiful and cheap. I always think about buying it because it's refreshing, especially with a lime. But it's expensive. I guess it is imported, but it doesn't feel like it's imported it feels domestic when you're living in your Mexican neighborhood and it's plentiful. 3 frozen pierogies from Casey's trip to Pittsburgh. So Casey was my neighbor. She lived down the block in our neighborhood, and she was my sister's friend. Did I even mention this was all in Chicago? I don't know if I mentioned that, but I was living in Chicago when I wrote this, for context. 3 frozen pierogies. So Casey, my sister's friend, we would visit our family in Pittsburgh sometimes, and I guess Casey went and brought us back pierogies. I remember them. I think they were potato and cheese, and I think I overcooked them or just didn't know how to properly reheat them because I remember them being so soft that they fell apart, but very good. All right, June 10th, 2020, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Ruby coffee with soy creamer, made at home. 11 a.m. Quesadilla, made at home. 2:30 p.m. Iceberg salad, made at home. 7 p.m. 1 can of Modelo, yukgaejang, made by Brian. 10 p.m. Handful of pretzels. Again, quesadilla, iceberg salad, no details. What cheese? What was in the salad? We'll never know. And so I still had a job at this point. I was working at the record label from home. We weren't allowed to go into the office. But Brian was unemployed. He didn't live with me, but he would stay at my house a lot because we had a cat together. And he would cook more because he was unemployed, I guess. At some point, he started working on a TV show, and I basically never saw him again. So this must have been pre-TV show. But And so Brian making yukgaejang at home, I mean, we probably wouldn't have done this before COVID. We would have just, oh, my cats just closed the door. Okay. So we would go to this place called Ajuma's Apron in Chinatown in Chicago, and they had the best yukgaejang around. Brian was obsessed with it. Clearly he was missing it. I mean, we could have gotten takeout. I don't know, So he's making it at home. The first few times he made it, I don't know if it was a success, but he eventually nailed it, and he makes great yukgaejang, and I would say it's probably my favorite Korean soup. Eating pretzels at 10 p.m. And another thing that I don't think about is during this time we were in Chicago, surrounded by friends. At some point I lived above some of our friends and babysat their child a lot. Brian lived in a building that was owned by a friend and completely occupied by friends. So we were, even though we had to isolate from people, we could hang out on the roof with all these friends and, be hanging out, quote unquote, safely. So we were super social during this time and had some of the late nights and some beer drinking, snacking at night. Okay, June 11th, 2020, Thursday, 10 a.m., leftover coffee with soy creamer. 11 a.m., avocado quesadilla made at home. 2 p.m., iceberg salad made at home. 4 p.m., handful of chocolate-covered espresso beans. 6:30 p.m., leftover yukgaejang. Okay, what is iceberg salad? Handful of chocolate-covered espresso beans. That's strange. I don't know why I had those around. Maybe someone gave them to me. It reminds me of high school Spanish class. And I don't know why I can't remember her name because she was one of my favorite teachers. But we had a Spanish teacher who, to perk us up during class, would keep a container of chocolate-covered espresso beans on her desk, make us hold out our hands, and then walk around and put 2 or 3 chocolate-covered espresso beans in our hands. And it didn't do anything, but it was sweet of her. She was very nice. She invited us all over to her house once and cooked for us. She was a gymnast in a former life, gymnastics coach, and was spotting a girl once on the balance beam, and the girl fell, and the Spanish teacher caught her, but the force of the fall and the impact on her arm caused her bicep muscle to detach itself, and it fell to the bottom of her arm, where your skin flaps a little bit. So she went to the hospital and they reattached her bicep. But thereon after, her muscle always looks like, her arm always looks like she's flexing. So she looked jacked on one side at all times. And she would wear sleeveless dresses almost exclusively. So she had a look. June 11th, 2020. Oh, no, I just read that one. Okay. June 12th, 2020, Friday. Ruby coffee with soy creamer, made at home. 12 p.m. Cold eggplant and brown rice, made at home. 3 p.m. Handful of pretzels. 6 p.m. Hot eggplant and brown rice, made at home. 7 p.m. Samuel Smith lager and dried mango. 9 p.m. Samuel Smith lager. 10:30 p.m. 1 can of Modelo. Okay, what is cold eggplant and what is hot eggplant? And again, no information. Cold eggplant. nice. Okay, so here's what I think that this might have been. When I lived in Bushwick with my friend Peter, we would go to this restaurant called King Noodle. It does not exist anymore, but it was like, and this isn't fair, but to me, as a former Mission Chinese employee, I was like, this is a ripoff. This is a Mission Chinese ripoff. As if Mission Chinese is the only restaurant that can do fun, trendy Asian food. Now everybody does it. It's not an original concept. But anyway, we would go there, and there were a few, they had a great menu, and it was small, which I liked. And I would get their green curry with fish balls a lot. Green curry noodles with fish balls and puffed tofu. It was delicious. And I forget what else I would get, but there was another go-to I had. But what we would get as the appetizer, and it was usually a special, but there's such a small window of time when we actually went here that it was almost always a special, is this eggplant dish. And it was really just sweet and sour eggplant, but I loved it. It was finger-sized eggplant sticks, lightly fried and not even fried, just like sauteed, and then coated in a sweet chili sauce. And again, I'm longing for that restaurant experience. So I think that's the dish that I'm making at home. I wonder why I was eating it cold. That sounds terrible. Actually, this is the only apartment during this time I lived in an apartment that came with a microwave built into the cabinets. It's the only time in my adult life I've had a microwave. But during a lightning storm, it got electrocuted, so it actually didn't work, and I used it for storage. So that's probably why I wasn't reheating a lot of my food. Samuel Smith lager. That's a good one. That's a good organic lager. It's expensive. Brian bought that on occasionally. I don't know, if you've been to Chicago, or if you've lived in Chicago, you'll know you'll know the grocery store Pete's. I take it back. If you visit Chicago, you probably don't know about this, but if you live in Chicago, you know Pete's. And they had a really good beer selection. And actually, around the time that I moved, they had just built a giant beer walk-in cooler. What do you call those? Where you walk in and it's freezing. They built one of those. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we were socializing on this Friday night because I drank 3 beers. Because otherwise I would not have been motivated to drink so much. I don't really like to drink alone, even at home. But I think this was still the era where I felt like I needed to drink beer to socialize and talk to people, because I still felt very awkward. Wow, what a great note to end on. So that was a Friday to Friday of the first. Let me just do. I'll finish out the week. I'll do a Saturday and Sunday. Okay, June 13th, 2020, Saturday, 12 p.m. Mushroom omelet and garlic fried rice made at home. Leftover coffee with soy creamer. 7 p.m. Half of a Nature Valley granola bar. 8 p.m. Leftover yukgaejang and rice. 10 p.m. 3 martinis made by Dana and Alexis. Okay, wow. I don't remember what happened during this day, but I do distinctly remember starving. And the only thing I could get my hands on at 7 p.m. was I had to split a Nature Valley granola bar with Brian. I don't know, maybe we went on a hike. I don't know, but we probably went on a hike. Drove out far in Illinois and did a hike somewhere. And okay, so this mushroom omelet, that sounds great. And garlic fried rice. Garlic fried rice is something that I started making because of a place in Chicago called Uncle Mike's. If you know, you love it. A lot of people don't know about it though. They have a double-sided menu. They have a regular American menu, which is fine, but you really want to order off the Filipino side. I think it's Filipino. But they have Filipino breakfast, and you could get a baby, you could get a fried filleted fish, a bangus, I don't know how to pronounce it, spam, longanisa sausage. They would always give you like pico de gallo on the side. They would start you off with a small bowl of congee with fried garlic sprinkled over it and lemon wedges. And actually, I think New York Times got their congee recipe and put it up because it is really simple and great. You need those like pre-fried in a plastic container fried garlic that you put over. You can get it at an Asian grocery store, and you need lemon slices. And it's so simple, and it's really, that's why people go to, at least me, that's why I went to Uncle Mike's. Cheap coffee. They would always refill it, and they give you that congee. And at the end of the meal, they give you a chocolate rice pudding, which I never really ate. It was okay. But yeah, they would serve, when you ordered the Filipino breakfast, it came with garlic fried rice, and it was really garlicky. And so that's something that I would make at home because, yeah, I wasn't going to Uncle Mike's anymore. So then I starved the rest of the day. Then we got home, left over yukgaejang. And I think, so Dana and Alexis, the Bassetts, we went over to their house, I think, and they made martinis. I think, was it a housewarming? I think maybe we were just hanging out with them alone. I don't remember. But 3 martinis, I mean, wow. But I do remember that being fun. June 14th, 2020, Sunday. Leftover yukgaejang, ruby coffee with soy creamer, made at home. 2 p.m., small bag of chili cheese Fritos. 3:30 p.m., 2 Nutter Butter cookies. 7 p.m., 3 slices of frozen Home Run In pizza, 1 can of Modelo. Oh, wow. Home Run In pizza. That's a pizza that if I can find it in North Carolina, it's like $12. It used to be so cheap. I think it's gone up, like everything's gone up in price, but it's a really decent frozen pizza. It's based off of a real restaurant you can still go to. The pizza in their restaurant is nothing like their frozen pizza, but if you're in the Chicagoland area, Home Run In pizza, the frozen. The restaurant is super 70s and nostalgic. And maybe worth a visit if you're a Home Run frozen pizza head, but I don't know. I wouldn't go back. Nutter butter cookies, that's something that I'm constantly craving and never buying, but would like to. And chili cheese Fritos, I think I remember those being really good. All right, guys, that was interesting. Also interesting that I record how many slices of frozen pizza that I eat. 3 slices of frozen pizza. It's like, it almost seems like a caloric tracker. I mean, I've really gotten lax. I've traded out counting for listing components and ingredients and provenance, I would say. So that's it. I'm going to stop. And thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.